Chapter 3 of The Angel of the Revolution by George Griffith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 3. A Friendly Chat. Soon after 8 the next morning, Colston came into the sitting room where Arnold had slept on the sofa and dreamt dreams of war and world revolts and battles fought in mid-air between aerial navies built on the plan of his own model. When Colston came in, he was just awake enough to be wondering whether the events of the previous night were a reality or part of his dreams, a doubt that was speedily set at rest by his host drawing back the curtains and pulling up the blinds. The moment his eyes were properly open, he saw that he was anywhere but in his own shabby room in Southwark, and the rest was made clear by Colston saying, "Well, Comrade Arnold, Lord High Admiral of the Air, how have you slept? I hope you found the sofa big and soft enough, and that the last cigar has left no evil effects behind it." Good morning. I don't know whether it was the whisky or the cigars or what it was, but do you know I have been dreaming all sorts of absurd things about battles in the air and dropping explosives on fortresses and turning them into small volcanoes. When you came in just now I hadn't the remotest idea where I was. It's time to get up, I suppose. Yes, it's after 8 a good bit. I've had my tub, so the bathroom is at your service. Meanwhile, Burrows will be laying the table for breakfast. When you have finished your tub, come into my dressing room and let me rig you out. We are about of a size, and I think I shall be able to meet your most fastidious taste. In fact, I could rig you out as anything, from a tramp to an officer of the guards. It wouldn't take much change to accomplish the former, I'm afraid, but really I couldn't think of trespassing so far on your hospitality as to take your very clothes from you. I'm deep enough in your debt already. Don't talk nonsense, Richard Arnold. The tone in which those last words were said shows me that you have not duly laid to heart what I said last night. There is no such thing as private property in the Brotherhood, of which I hope, by this time tomorrow, you will be an initiate. What I have here is mine only for the purposes of the cause, wherefore it is as much yours as mine. For today we are going on the Brotherhood's business. Why then should you have any scruples about wearing the Brotherhood's clothes? Now, clear out and get tubbed, and wash some of those absurd ideas out of your head. Well, as you put it that way, I don't mind, only remember that I don't necessarily put on the principles of the Brotherhood with its clothes. So saying, Arnold got up from the sofa, stretched himself, and went off to make his toilet. When he sat down to breakfast with his host half an hour later, very few who had seen him on the embankment the night before would have recognised him as the same man. The tailor, after all, does a good deal to make the man, externally at least, and the change of clothes in Arnold's case had transformed him from a superior-looking tramp into an aristocratic and decidedly good-looking man, in the prime of his youth, saving only for the thinness and pallor of his face and a perceptible stoop in the shoulders. During breakfast they chatted about their plans for the day and then drifted into generalities, chiefly of a political nature. The better Arnold came to know Maurice Colston, the more remarkable his character appeared to him, and it was his growing wonder at the contradictions that it exhibited that made him say towards the end of the meal, "I must say you're a queer sort of conspirator, Colston. My idea of nihilists and members of the revolutionary societies has always taken the form of silent, stealthy, cautious beings, with a lively distrust and hatred of the whole human race outside their own circles. And yet here are you, an active member of the most terrible secret society in existence, pledged to the destruction of nearly every institution on earth, and carrying your life in your hand, opening your heart like a schoolboy to a man you have literally not known for 24 hours. Suppose you had made a mistake in me, what would there be to prevent me telling the police who you are and having you locked up with a view to extradition to Russia?" "In the first place," replied Colston quietly, "you would not do so because I am not mistaken in you, and because in your heart, whether you fully know it or not, you believe as I do about the destruction that is about to fall upon society. In the second place, if you did betray my confidence, I should be able to bring such an overwhelming array of the most respectable evidence to show that I was nothing like what I really am. that you would be laughed at for a madman, and in the third place, there would be an inquest on you within 24 hours after you had told your story. Do you remember the death of Inspector Ainsworth of the Criminal Investigation Department about 6 months ago? Oh yes, of course I do. Hermit and all as I was, I could hardly help hearing about that, considering what a noise it made. But I thought that was cleared up. Didn't one of that gang of garrotters that was broken up in South London a couple of months later confess to strangling him in the statement that he made before he was executed? Yes, and his widow is now getting 10 shillings a week for life on account of that confession. Birkett no more killed Ainsworth than you did, but he had killed 2 or 3 others, and so the confession didn't do him very much harm. No, Ainsworth met his death in quite another way. He accepted from the Russian Secret Police Bureau in London a bribe of £250 down and the promise of another £250 if he succeeded in manufacturing enough evidence against a member of our outer circle to get him extradited to Russia on a trumped-up charge of murder. The inner circle learnt of this from one of our spies in the Russian London police and, well, Ainsworth was found dead with the mark of the terror upon his forehead before he had time to put his treachery into action. He was executed by 2 of the Brotherhood, who are members of the Metropolitan Police Force, and who were afterwards complimented by the magistrate for the intelligent efforts they had made in bringing murderers to justice. Colston told the dark story in the most careless of tones between the puffs of his after-breakfast cigarette. Arnold stifled his horror as well as he was able, but he could not help saying when his host was done, "This Brotherhood of yours is well named the Terror, but was not that rather a murder than an execution?" "By no means," replied Colston a trifle coldly. "Society hangs or beheads a man who kills another. Ainsworth knew as well as we did that if the man he tried to betray by false evidence had once set foot in Russia, the torments of 100 deaths would have been his before he had been allowed to die. He betrayed his office and his faith to his English masters in order to commit this vile crime, and so he was killed as a murderous and treacherous reptile that was not fit to live. We of the Terror are not lawyers, and so we make no distinctions between deliberate plotting for money to kill and the act of killing itself. Our law is closer akin to justice than the hair-splitting fraud that is tolerated by society." Either from emotional or logical reasons, Arnold made no reply to this reasoning, and seeing he remained silent, Colston resumed his ordinary, nonchalant, good-humoured tone and went on. "But come, that will be horrors enough for today. We have other business at hand, and we may as well get to it at once. About this wonderful invention of yours. Of course, I believe all you have told me about it, but you must remember that I am only an agent, and that I am inexorably bound by certain rules in accordance with which I must act. Now, to be perfectly plain with you, and in order that we may thoroughly understand each other before either of us commits himself to anything, I must tell you that I want to see this model flying ship of yours in order to be able to report on it tonight to the executive of the Inner Circle, to whom I shall also want to introduce you. If you will not allow me to do that, say so at once, and, for the present at least, our negotiations must come to a sudden stop." "Go on," said Arnold quietly. "So far I consent. For the rest I would rather hear you to the end." "Very well. Then, if the executive approve of the invention, you will be asked to join the Inner Circle at once, and to devote yourself, body and soul, to the society and the accomplishments of the objects that will be explained to you. If you refuse, there will be an end of the matter, and you will simply be asked to give your word of honour, to reveal nothing that you have seen or heard, and then allowed to depart in peace. If, on the other hand, you consent, in consideration of the immense importance of your secret, which there is no need to disguise from you, to the Brotherhood, the usual condition of passing through the outer circle will be dispensed with, and you will be trusted as absolutely as we shall expect you to trust us. Whatever funds you then require to manufacture an airship on the plan of your model will be placed at your disposal, and a suitable place will be selected for the works that you will have to build. When the ship is ready to take the air, you will of course be appointed to the command of her, and you will pick your crew from among the workmen who will act under your orders in the building of the vessel. They will all be members of the outer circle, who will not understand your orders, but simply obey them blindly, even to the death. One member of the inner circle will act as your second in command, and he will be as perfectly trusted as you will be, so that in unforeseen emergencies you will be able to consult with him with perfect confidence. Now I think I have told you all. What do you say?" Arnold was silent for a few minutes, too busy for speech with the rush of thoughts that had crowded through his brain as Colston was speaking. Then he looked up at his host and said, "May I make conditions?" "You may state them," replied he with a smile, "but of course I don't undertake to accept them without consultation with with the executive." "Of course not," said Arnold. "Well, the conditions that I should feel myself obliged to make with your executive would be, briefly speaking, these. I would not reveal to anyone the composition of the gases from which I derive my motive force. I should manufacture them myself in given quantities, and keep them always under my own charge. At the first attempt to break faith with me in this respect, I would blow the airship and all her crew, including myself, into such fragments as it would be difficult to find one of them. I have and wish for no life apart from my invention, and I would not survive it." "Good," interrupted Colston. "There spoke the true enthusiast. Go on." "Secondly, I would use the machine only in open warfare, when the Brotherhood is fighting openly for the attainment of a definite end. Once the appeal to force has been made, I will employ a force such as no nation on earth can use without me, and I will use it as unsparingly as the armies and fleets engaged will employ their own engines of destruction on one another. But I will be no party to the destruction of defenceless towns and people who are not in arms against us. If I am ordered to do that, I tell you candidly that I will not do it. I will blow the airship itself up first." "The conditions are somewhat stringent, although the sentiments are excellent," replied Colston. "Still, of myself, I can neither accept nor reject them. That will be for the executive to do. For my own part, I think that you will be able to arrive at a basis of agreement on them. And now I think we have said all we can say for the present. And so, if you're ready, we'll be off, and satisfy my longing to see the invention that is to make us the arbiters of war, when war comes, which I fancy will not be long now." Something in the tone in which these last words were spoken struck Arnold with a kind of cold chill, and he shivered slightly as he said, in answer to Colston, "I am ready when you are, and no less anxious than you to set eyes on my model. I hope to goodness it is all safe. Do you know, when I'm away from it I feel just like a woman away from her first baby." A few minutes later, two of the most dangerous enemies of society alive were walking quietly along the embankment towards Blackfriars, smoking their cigars and chatting as conventionally as though there were no such things on earth as tyranny and oppression, and their necessarily ever-present enemies, conspiracy and brooding revolution. End of chapter 3.